All right, just picked up some super nice boots today. And for reference, I got these other two that I'm gonna be referencing them to, yeah. This is my first pair of Nikes and my first pair of Umbros that I've ever gonna play with. Coincidentally, the first pair of New Balances that I've ever owned and played in. So first we'll start with the Nikes here. These are the Nike Phantom Venom Pros, all right? These are actually on sale at eBay and finalscore.com. That's where I picked up both of these. $50 USD, $64 USD. So got them for pretty cheap, so I kind of want to pick them up to kind of see how they are. I'm just kind of maybe showing these to you. It has the Kangalite, that's the Pro model here, as well with the Nike skin, okay? The Kangalite here supposedly is supposed to be, you know, kangaroo leather, like I'm sure you've heard from, say, Jeff from Soccer Reviews for You. The best way to describe this K-Lite here is, you know, when you're kind of touching it and whatnot, it's pretty much like a felt. That's what it feels like. So it's relatively soft. You got these little bumps right here, which are raised, and when I'm kind of touching it and feeling it, all throughout here, this kind of has maybe more of a, I think someone else said it kind of has like a sandpaper kind of feel, but a sandpaper with maybe mixing with a nice soft felt, and that's kind of what these are. Relatively soft, not stiff. So it's actually rather nice, I think. Quite soft. Does it feel like kangaroo leather? I don't really think so. It's its own material, but I think it's a fantastic material, to be honest with you. It's soft, and I mean, I like it. I don't have a problem with that at all. The back here, Nike skin. It's been their thing for quite some time. I've never touched it or felt it before, and it just feels nice. That texture and whatnot, not bad. No problem with it at all. Kind of moving towards the inside here. The inside maybe has this like rubber. Not really a rubber, but it's a smooth texture. Smooth synthetic leather. I think I've also heard someone kind of mention it, but it's smooth. It's not quite like a soft suede. No, not, you know, maybe almost a fake suede, but it's rather smooth and maybe more on the grippy side. So yeah, kind of like looking at it, you know, my first kind of impression. I think it's a beautiful boot. The way it's this black and neon green, I've actually liked that color. I've worn Diodors back in the day, the toady versions. I've had two. One was the all black with the neon green accents like this with the Diodor sign. So that's what it reminds me of. This is the $50 one on the eBay and the Final Score. Probably maybe because this colorway isn't. Yeah, maybe people don't like it, but I don't have a problem with it. Like I said, I've worn the Diodors in this same exact colorway for quite some time, so for me, it's a rather normal color. Kind of looking through here, the outsole, yeah. It has what's called the Hyper Reactive, some sort of, you know, Nike has all these crazy names. You pull it back, I guess it's supposed to go like that. Who knows? But it's relatively nice, you know. It's molded. It doesn't look like anything kind of like injected, you know. So it's not like a fancy looking outsole, right? Say as opposed to the Furon. I mean, if you compare the two, yeah, the Furon looks way better when it comes to aesthetics, when it comes to the bottom like that. But relatively normal, kind of cool little texture, and it looks cool, like these little, I guess, diamond triangle things, you know. A nice look to it. The studs are fine too. You know, I mean, I've had round, these chevron style. They all pretty much feel the same to me, to be honest with you. I've never put on a boot and like, oh my gosh, these studs feel so much better. They've all kind of done what they needed to do for me. The only thing I could say is like if I was on a soft pitch, you know, longer studs, longer chevron or rounded studs, I mean, they're going to do the same thing, right? So for the studs, I'm happy with them. I've worn them around my house, and the only thing I felt was some pressure from this particular stud. But that obviously I'm kind of walking around on a rug, so it's not going to be like, you know, you're walking on the pitch and whatnot. So I'll kind of keep note of that, see if I still feel that pressure from this one. It could be because it's actually, these are relatively, I guess, thin, you know, the way that they're made. So the pressure is going to be distributed pretty much just straight back to your feet. Versus if these were a bit wider, you have a wider pressure point going onto your foot. So that's the only thing that I would say, that with these style studs is what I can notice. All the pressure is being just directly right back onto your foot instead of being a wider stud and, you know, helping with that pressure that you feel. The biggest thing with these, well, I guess before we get to that, you got this little cover here. I've seen where people have actually cut this out to get to the laces, because to get to these laces, it's rather difficult. I think this is probably the most negative thing on the boot. This is probably, I would say, a make or break issue for people. These are extremely difficult to get on. The very first time I tried to put these on, I had to switch socks to a more high quality sock. If you don't do that, if you just, you know, say you're out all day working and you come home and these boots, you know, at your front door, and you just want to quickly throw them on because you're excited, those socks that are all been used and are rather stretchy and worn out, it's going to be a pain putting these on. So you have to have some high quality socks that are, you know, rather tight, not stretched out, because this will grip your foot and your socks will be, you know, moving around and you won't even be able to put it on. So I had to switch socks just to get the boots on. So yeah, this cover right here, like I said, people have cut this out so they could actually get to the laces to tighten them, because you really can't. It's really kind of awkward to tighten these when these are on your foot. You know, it's kind of weird. So you're trying to tighten these up, and it just really doesn't work. The only place that you can kind of tighten them up, so you really only get these two strings right here, and when you're trying to pull them, okay, it's kind of weird because it doesn't really feel like they're tightening up right here, or it's only pulling these ones, but the ones down here aren't really are tightening up. So that's for me is probably a terrible design, and that would be a make or break. Meaning if you had this boot and whatever boot else you were looking at, just this would be the reason why I would not buy this boot. It is extremely difficult to put on. And you gotta think, you know, you're all ready to you know, play a match with your mates or a pickup game, you know, and you're looking like a dummy trying to put these boots on. It's literally that bad. However, once they are on, they feel good. I'll give them that. This is a really well-fitting boot. My feet aren't narrow. You know, I'm not saying I have wide feet, because a lot of people say they have wide feet when they don't. However, you know, my feet are not necessarily wide, but I have certain spots in my foot that are, you know, will cause pressure in different parts of these boots. You know, like say where your toes are, and those two little balls were my pinky and my big toe. That is a wide part for me. So for me, and then where my foot, how I plant, the inside of my foot has, I guess, a lot of fat, I suppose, which causes the boots to kind of go, I guess, over the studs. It's kind of hard to explain. So, and a little bit higher than normal arch as well that I have. So, you know, that's why I was always wearing Diodoras, because Diodoras fit me perfectly. Out of every boot that I've ever owned and played in, Diodoras, for me, were always the best. But, you know, recently, the Diodora really only has one boot out, and that's the Brazil. And I think maybe the Roberto Baggio one as well. But, you know, they're not easy to come by, unfortunately. So, yeah, this is extremely difficult to put on. Once you actually kind of try it a couple times, you will kind of get that technique of sliding it in. However, I can tell that these perhaps were tried on at one point, and the heel, I mean, I can kind of tell that it's been kind of smushed down because you're trying to get your foot in and it's kind of smushing, and you got your finger, your thumb in here, and then your finger's gonna start getting worn out. Like my skin from trying to put these on, probably hard to see, but this finger is just all red from sliding these off and on and trying to put them on again. But once these are on, I will give it to Nike that they really suck your feet, you know? So they conform to it. They feel nice. They feel really good. They really, all those, like I said, all those pressure points on my foot, these, you know, I can feel more they're tight and all those pressure points, but it's not uncomfortable pressure. It's a nice, comfortable feeling of tightness, right? So I've never owned a Nike boot, the Mercurials. I've never worn those ever. So I can't comment on what other boots in the Nike lineup these feel like. However, I have heard that these do feel like the Mercurials, I suppose, is what I've heard. So if you like that tight fitting feeling, these definitely have that. However, when I say a deal breaker though, is the style of my foot. I was contemplating like actually just taking the laces out because of how tight this boot is, but not tight in a bad way, uncomfortable way, but tight in a, I guess, you know, a good way, a lockdown sense of tightness, where, you know, when you cinched up your laces here, they're going to give you that tightness feeling. But with these, once I put them on, they're already like that. So on the left boot, I actually did that. I'll kind of show you how I laced them up here shortly. Just because of how tight that they were. And then the other, like I said, the deal breaker here is when you do finally get these tightened, or at least maybe these two tighten this one, it hurts it does hurt my feet, and it hurts, you know, that part of my foot, okay? So when I'm tightening these up, I do feel right in here, there's a really bad sensation, I mean, it just puts this really bad pressure. And on this part of my foot, I do have like a raised knuckle or a raised ball, I suppose. And it's quite uncomfortable. However, when I undo the laces or just don't even have them tight, they feel nice. So when my foot's in and I'm walking with them, I'm not getting that pulling sensation or that tightness sensation right in here. So with the laces normal, with this boot here, I would just normally tighten them and I wouldn't cinch them down. I would just make sure that they're tight, the laces are tied, and then it was fine, right? Because it's really not comfortable at all. These laces, this is not a comfortable boot when you're tightening up the laces, right? I almost contemplating on doing the same thing, cutting this little mesh fabric out, and then actually popping in some holes where it says the Phantom right there, and then some holes right here, and then actually just having the laces run through here and then tighten it up. For me, that would probably make this boot 100 times better, and it would run through here and then tighten it up. So there wouldn't be any pinch point running through this mesh fabric right here, which is, it's a nice fabric, it's comfortable. However, the design of them, there's no support in this mesh fabric, so you get some tension on your foot wherever you got, you know, wherever your foot is raised. If you have knuckles or whatever the case may be, the way that cinches down, it's gonna, you know, even though the laces go all the way over, you're gonna get a pressure point right here on your foot, or right over here, wherever maybe your foot is shaped. So for me, it's yeah, you know, I'd hate to tear boots up, but I might just do it just to see. So I may not cut that off, just kind of poke some holes in here, which really isn't going to, you know, it's not going to affect the boot. And then just kind of see how perhaps that feels when I'm tightening it up. It's probably not supposed to do that, so when you tighten it up, it'll probably have some weird, this mesh will probably do that, which is probably why that needs to be cut out if you were, or say if I was going to put those holes in there, because it would create this weird effect like that, you know? So it could be an issue where it might be kind of sloppy to do that, but that's a complaint. So on the left boot, this is going to be kind of I'm going to test this out. So I pretty much just took all the laces undone. They got these little loops in there, And as well, this tongue, I mean, why it's so difficult, you really don't have much room to put your foot in. And this little tongue here does not stretch at all, and it's cinched down and sewed in. And then when you're looking at this, when I'm looking inside here, it doesn't really look very durable. I mean, almost to the point where, like, you know, another little test I could do is I could actually probably cut this mesh a little bit. And I can re-sew it. I'm able to do that. So I could actually cut this I'd probably do I wouldn't do that side. I would do the inside actually. Because I was looking and inspecting the boots. I would do the inside here, and that tongue would open up and perhaps, you know, fold open like more of a burrito. And then your foot would just slide right in. And then, you know, once you tighten everything up, the tongue's gonna stay. It shouldn't move anywhere. But so this, on the left foot here, what I did was, yeah, so I kind of undid it from these loops. And this is how we, you know, the guys who wore the Diodoras came with extra long laces. And a lot of the guys were like, they didn't realize, like, why did it have extra long laces for? Well, the reason being is you would run it under your studs. And when you tighten your boots, that gave you really nice heel lockdown. And that's why the Diodora laces were long for that particular reason. So I did that similar here, is I kind of loosened these up so these would be longer. And then when I'm cinching them up, because, you know, if I wore these without laces, I could do it, but like any laceless boot, you know, when you're walking, you do feel just your heel just ever so slightly move. Not to the point at all where the boot's gonna fall off if you're sprinting, but just that feeling of like, oh man, my boots are loose. Oh, my boots are loose. So for that particular reason, I lace these up with these when it comes down here. So when I tighten them, it's not tightening up here, which is really hurting my foot. It's really just kind of tightening them up right here a bit, and then getting that lockdown on the heel. So practically, you know, the lace, it's laceless through here and only laced up right around there. Because it feels really nice on my foot through here. It's nice and solid. I mean, everything here is tight on my foot. It just barely moves when I'm sprinting off my heel. So doing this little heel thing here, it actually stopped that. So that's how I have these laced up. And I'm gonna try it out. I haven't, you know, like I haven't kicked the ball around or been on the pitch at all to see if that's really gonna help. But just walking around with them, that did help. So for the $50 that I paid for these, I would be honest with you, these definitely are worth it. If I had, say, the Phantom Venom Pros and, you know, well, whatever boot that was $50, that was maybe more of a top-end boot, you know, I would probably do it. So I guess we'll throw in the Medusa. So say this right here was 65 bucks. For an extra $15, would I say get the Medusas instead of the Phantom Venoms? I would, not necessarily because of, oh man, they're such a better boot, but I mean, just sliding your foot in and tighten them up and then going and playing, you know, versus, you know, these with this weird cover, tighten them up, all the pressure points from the laces. It's the only downfall is the lacing system. Everything else about this boot, I really enjoy. I really like just wearing them around the house, not playing them yet, so I can't say that. But just the feeling I get, they really fit your foot really nice and they hug it. And, you know, I haven't had a boot like that because I've been playing in Diodoras, only the kangaroo leather boots I've been playing in. So this, to have like a synthetic and a tight feeling, is that the first time I've ever felt that. So if that's kind of more or less what you're into, you're going to enjoy it. But perhaps, you know, I think Nike has perhaps the other boots that are laced, that are easy to get to without any of these pinch points. So if you had whatever Nike Pro or whatever, and you're like, man, these are both $50, or you know, whatever the case may be, you know, this is $50, and say you have the Medusa Pro or another Nike that's maybe $15 more, that's say discounted, but it has an easier lacing system, I would definitely choose that. because the playability and the way they feel is along the Nike line, I imagine, are the same unless you go with their kangaroo leather boots. So all in all, I think it's an excellent. I think this is excellent for my first pair of Nikes. I'm quite impressed. You know, I think that cool K-Light, getting away from the kangaroo leather, I think is nice. So yeah, all in all, if you can get them cheap, you know, hey, 50 bucks, you can get them cheap and you can kind of get away with that. It will get easier. The durability though might be an issue. These might rip, so you might want to have someone who knows how to sew, you know, be on standby for that reason. However, the construction and the durability, these are going to be fine. These will last you. I don't see anything here that, you know, is going to be an issue durability wise, except for this little system. So this right here definitely is a fail for me. They'll probably never do that again in a boot. It's terrible. However, everything else about this boot is fantastic. First Nike boot, I'll definitely give it a thumbs up, and I'll probably try some other Nike boots out. I've always just been against the Nike brand, or even the Adidas brand. You know, that's what everybody was wearing, so that's why I went Diadora. I wore Lottos, you know, throughout my career. So stuck with the Italian manufacturers, but they're definitely a little bit more difficult to get around here. Anyway, if you can get these on sale, they're at Eastbay for 50 bucks and finalscore.com for 50 bucks. Definitely, I'd say definitely a good deal. If you're looking for a higher end boot, these definitely are really nice. Just got to get over that. If your feet aren't so wide, maybe you're used to the, you know, a little bit more narrow, you probably won't even have that issue like I'm having. You know, my high arch, you might just slide right in. For the weight, if anybody was kind of interested, I got a scale here. I have it in grams, and this is at 203 grams. So they are light. They are lightweight boots. 200 grams. You know, I mean, I was playing in back in the day with the Diadoras, and weight. At that time, weight wasn't really even a thing that we talked about, unless, you know, you were wanting to get the vapors. That was their selling point. But other than that, the comfortability of these boots, you know, is really what I was going for, and a lot of the people that I was playing with went for. It was the comfort, the control aspect of it, and the durability of the boots. So this boot only being 200 grams is definitely lightweight. So I do recommend it if you can get them on sale. I think these are excellent boots, and you really will enjoy them. So thank you very much, and hope that helps in your boot search.